Our final speaker here will be Jeffery Greenberg, the Chief Technology Officer of Bridgecrest Medical. And Jeffery brings decades of technology leadership and product creation to the Bridgecrest team, holding patents in medical diagnostic imaging and in innovations in user interface design. Jeffery has focused his entire career on just making amazing products. He's worked with companies like Bell Laboratories, Aon Hewitt, and numerous startups, and holds advanced degrees from UCSD, including a degree in bioengineering. He's also been awarded several National Endowments for the Arts, or grants from National Endowments for the Arts and other arts institutions. So it's my pleasure to introduce Jeffery.
All right. So yeah, I date back when working in a refrigerated room in the art department, because computers were so useless that they gave them to us in the art department, trying to find something useful to do with them. You know, we ended up being one of the first 10 sites on the internet, which was sort of useless at the time. And I remember, you know, creating an email and thinking, wow, this would be really interesting while I'm sitting in this refrigerated room behind refrigerator-sized computing equipment that's like weaker than this watch. You know, wow, this email thing could be cool, but it'll never happen. So here we are. Now let's see if I can use this clicker. So I'm here to do this nerd factor on, there's some really interesting technology that's currently out there now to help us improve public safety in really concrete ways that are also save us money. So I want to take you back to a public transport disaster this May, where an Amtrak train approached a curve in the Amtrak line between New York City and Washington, and it was on a curve, 50 miles an hour rated curve, and the train was doing more than 100. It derailed, cars were crunched, there were 11 fatalities, there were hundreds of injuries. And the outcome of this, loss of life, also considerable liability, 26 lawsuits. There's at least, the federal cap on accidents is $200 million. So in urban environments, these are large-scale fiascos. And they're actually looking at upping the cap on all accidents to between $300 and $500 million. So we'll see what this Congress does. But these accidents are considerable, and they're addressable problems. And we have some technology solutions in place to help us deal with them. I actually need to see this slide so I can do this. So typically, you know, the way these solutions work is you go, you look at the assets and you try to measure the machines. Are they operating right? We try to look at the operator, but there's not a lot of data there. They could be fatigued. They might be distracted. Or, you know, the track infrastructure could be problems. And all the public works infrastructure is an issue. And that was an issue in this case. It was also, you know, all the politicians came out on various sides of the fences to discuss infrastructure challenges, support. And so this incident and its solution are pretty illustrative of problems that we face with our mass transportation around the country. So in this case, the operator, you know, we can measure all this other stuff, but the operator we can't measure. In this case, though, we could tell whether the operator, who turned out to be an advocate for public safety and the rules for it, so he had claimed, and probably did, pack away his phone. There was no Wi-Fi signal detected. There was no phone use detected thanks to the metadata, which we'll leave aside. And the NTSB, you know, basically puts this as some kind of human operator problem. So, so there's technology in place to reduce these accidents. Like, so we track the trains, we track the speed. These systems actually were not in place at the time. Might have helped, might have solved this problem. You know, they basically try to catch the train in moving and then try to stop it or send a signal to the operator to stop it. We have other technology to measure the tracks themselves. We do ultrasound engineering on the steel and can tell whether metal is viable. But the human component, whether they were attending or distracted or fatigued or drug use, are up in the, are not really measurable until recently. And that's kind of where I'm heading with this. So basically, if we could detect the biological state of operators in order to determine whether they are falling asleep or other conditions, we might be able to prevent a lot of stuff. At least 20% of road accidents are regarded as being fatigue related. So fatigue is something we particularly focus on because of that, how it appears in driving data and in our sites. So fatigue is not an attitude. You probably can't read this. Fatigue is not an attitude. It's a medical condition. It's a testable condition having to do with sleep quality, sleep reduction. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but it does affect your performance significantly, both mental and physical. And it's been compared to alcohol use. 24 hours of sleep in some studies is equivalent to more than being inebriated by at least California's current legal standards. So that's, so people working on mass transit or in city situations like buses, police, trains, all these situations involve shifts, and the sort of shift use really doesn't help sleep. So there's many factors that go into fatigue, like sleep apnea, which is now diagnosed more than ever. That snoring is really not a good sign. There's chronic sleep illnesses like insomnia. There are just having shift-based work that cities require. So that messes with the circadian rhythms, that matters. So all those shift-based work is problematic. Sleep quality is also affected by, and there's different kinds of sleep, but it's affected by drug use, by stress. All those factors affect sleep, but in the end, the quality and quantity of sleep are what matter. That is something we can actually look at. So there's changes in this technology recently that make this viable. So I'm wearing devices right now that measure a lot of biologic states. And we can do this now because there's advances in materials, in computing power. These chips in here are 1,000 times more powerful than that first internet stuff I was on. And this is like sending signals through my skin to look at blood and oxygenation, other factors. And this is a watch. The iWatch doesn't do this stuff, but there are other vendors that do stuff. This is a Basis watch that's an Intel product. This is a Jawbone. It's less good, but it's really good for exercise. So we use these wearables are, what's happening also is that it's culturally acceptable now to wear these things, that with flashing lights and weird bands. It's both, it's technically interesting, it's culturally possible, and it really does work. So these chips, the culture, make this a tractable technology. So what happens is for us to measure fatigue, there's two solutions, and they're in the market now. So there's one set that are reactive solutions and one are predictive. So the reactive ones, basically, we try to put them on drivers, and it tries to detect whether they're falling asleep. They're already at the wheel, they're already there. And so there's these fancy things we can do. We can put cameras in the cabs, and we can literally, machine-wise, identify that they're falling asleep, their eyes are closing. There's also caps and signals, so you can detect brain waves now and detect that they're falling asleep. These are pretty good. They're not great. And those are reactive solutions. I mean, the guy or girl, woman is behind the wheel, and you're already in trouble. So it's better if you could somehow do this in advance, predict risk. And that's what we're doing at Bridgecrest. So we try to, we look at these signals for sleep quality in different ways in order to anticipate sleep. So that you either wear these devices or you have your phone on the bed through accelerometers and stuff can detect sleep to different degrees of accuracy. These are better. So it actually matches the gold standard for sleep measurement, which is called polysomnography, which is a multi-state way of measuring sleep. So these are fairly accurate. So ours is predictive. So what happens is we ascertain risk in advance. Like this driver is likely in the next shift to be a fatigue risk. So do not put them on. So that's basically the gist of what we're doing. So So basically, the stuff is in the market now. It works. We're using this on mine sites and bus sites and trucking sites around the world. We are looking to do something here and in the city through Muni there, and here's airport, bus, train, where we can sort of, and we work with these workers, so one of the challenges is getting the workers to use this stuff, which is, it actually is fairly easy to do, and they're fairly sophisticated on the mobile side. So this is a fairly viable, technology that can also work with, that we have experience making it work with workers. So we're looking to do that here in San Mateo as well. So it basically, so these fatigue risk kind of incidents like the Amtrak one, which may be, is something that we can prevent and at low cost and using this very spiffy technology. So there's also more stuff coming, more sensors, more things that we can sense that make from other opportunities like heat stroke and other challenges. We also have been involved with tracking Ebola in West Africa. Those are also related to mobile tracking, mobile setups for sensors, have mobile sensors that detect conditions. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. Thank you, sir. We have just about 10 minutes or less for questions for any of our ConnectTalks specialists. Do we have any questions out there? Anything provoked by these comments? Yes, can we get a microphone? Do we have microphones running around? All right. If you could just hang on 1 second, we're going to get a microphone out to you. And if you could specify which of our speakers you'd like to direct the question to.
I think I've already asked questions of everyone. Hi, Kevin. But I have a question for this fine gentleman here who just spoke. This is reminding me of sci-fi TV and movies and things like that. Do you think that we will at some point have sleep chambers, or a doctor would be able to tell what's going on by using technology?
Certainly. Yes. Okay. So yeah, well, there's a movie out there where I think they could predict crime in advance, of it occurring, and in that one they had a clairvoyant, which is a technology we don't quite have yet. But yes, no, these are these non-invasive tools are increasingly getting smaller, like ultrasound machines that can fit with your mobile device. I mean, that's like really awesome, amazing technology, So yes, I mean, there's microassays, these tiny chips that can detect, whole conditions out of a drop of blood or saliva. This is, real. It's bleeding edge. I mean, to various degrees, this is unfolding, but it is.
Other questions? Ernie, let's get a microphone. There you go.
So this question's for Marci. Have you guys, one of the things that you start off with is effective participation. And as technology is evolving and the needs of the constituents are evolving, have you guys found that you're redefining effective participation?
It's a really good question. So one of the things that we are starting to measure, and we know we're not going to get it perfect when we start to measure it, but we'll at least have something to go on and change next quarter, is impact. And as everyone here knows, you don't measure legislative impact by whether a bill got passed or not. It's really, whether people felt that they were empowered. And in a lot of ways, political efficacy determines how effective you actually are, or was a broad perspective taken into account when the legislation was being drafted, things like that. So we're working on exactly how to measure both on the user side. Did PopVox or other tools help you know more about what was going on, feel more connected, do something that you wouldn't otherwise do, share with a friend, et cetera? And then on the legislative side, did members feel like they heard from a broader range of perspectives? Were the comments helpful? Was there less, you guys are, all this or that. So trying to even measure the tenor of the comments is something that we're going to look into. But as you know, it's very difficult to measure. And we just look forward to attempting it, probably being wrong the first few times, but kind of tweaking it as we go along and having discussions like this once we've got some results to look at.
Other questions for our speakers? Rod Chow? There you go.
This is for Marci too. It's kind of related to the prior question, but you're talking, I was a Hill staffer too, and I know we always counted the number of letters that came through, which dates me because it was pre-email. But at a local level, we don't have legislation, and sometimes you have city council votes. Are there ways for you to start looking at the level of discontentment in, say, a town or a city? Because it's often not just a single issue, but it could be, a pattern of discontent that's arising.
Yeah, that's also a really good question, and one that we hope we can take baby steps towards working with others on. So one of the reasons that I brought up the panel that had gone before about various tools for standardizing data at the local level is that at least we think the way that our site is going to be structured to show people federal level data, state level data, and eventually have kind of the opportunity to display county and municipal data when it's available is to provide the beginnings of that portal. What the data looks like is another question, and how well it can be presented in a way that is potentially understandable, and then how well the constituent input can be transmitted to the elected official in a way that's meaningful and shared publicly. That's all stuff that we're talking about, but again, I think we're going to play with it in lots of different ways. But that's also one of the reasons that I'm so excited that this community, whether from the city or the county or the district level, is thinking about technology in such an interesting way, because it makes us able to take the work that others are doing and try to fit it all together to eventually get to that.
And Marci, if you need a guinea pig for your work with PopVox California, please keep my office in mind. We would love to. We'll be your beta testing or whatever it's called. I actually have a question for Alex. I'm curious about, we've got all these tech companies on the peninsula. The public perceptions of tech may be a little bit different on the peninsula than San Francisco, but have you seen public perception change as a result of this organic program connecting company leaders with principals and the work that is being done kind of at that grassroots level? I mean, I know that's not the big intention here. There's actually good work happening, not just a PR issue, but how is it evolving?
Thank you. I think we're trying to target a lot of the smaller companies, maybe the companies that aren't on everyone's mind. I mean, there are 2,000 tech companies in San Francisco alone. And at least when San Franciscans think of tech, they think of the big brands, of the Salesforces and the Googles and Twitters, et cetera. And I think there's some recognition, again, if you poll the broader public, I think 65% are kind of happy that we have the lowest unemployment maybe in the nation, and that those taxes lead to services that we all love and treasure. But there's still that greater lack of connectivity kind of on the ground. And so I think there's some gold standards like a Mark Benioff and others, but I still think there's clearly a lot of tension around this kind of ongoing new movement and change that's happening so fast in the city. And that's what we're trying to do to, again, kind of put a face to the name on all of those kind of smaller 50 to 200 person companies. I can't believe I call that a small company. But making sure that those folks feel a little bit more connected, if that answers your question. That's great, thanks.
Okay, I think we are done with the questions. Let's give our ConnectTalks speakers one final round of applause. Thank you all very much. And I think my partner in crime, Warren Slocum, is going to come up. Just a couple of quick themes. I always learn a little something here that I can now drop into my speeches and steal material from all of our brilliant speakers here today. But just some themes that were kind of consistent: humanizing technology, real data collection, from pattern detection to improve services, growing collective adaptive capacity. I like that phrase for a tremendous keynote this morning. The need for cross-sector translation and collaboration on open data, and California is going to be making a big push on open data, and that's something Assemblymember Phil Ting is leading, and I'm hoping to partner with him on that. The need for rapid cycle prototyping of policy initiatives, the explosion of mobile, something that's apparent to all of us, how that is going to affect the work of government. I love that discussion of nudges, and as somebody who selfishly is really interested in voting patterns and civic engagement, what kind of cues the public looks to participate in the process, like the I voted sticker, which I've heard more about the I voted sticker since we've gone to all mailed ballot elections. People not happy that they're not getting their sticker. The little reward for voting. In fact, the I voted sticker was Warren Slocum's idea, so just want to give him a plug. And I was really interested to hear the presentation on SFO. And SFO is this really interesting hybrid. They were talking about the revenue generated like a business, but within the governmental structure. So you could actually do some modeling and pilot types of things right there. It's acting as the largest city in the county during the day. That was interesting. All of this not bad for San Mateo County, which would be the 47th largest state in the United States. I'm going to use that one in my speeches. So with that, I want to make sure that we thank our sponsors, publicly recognize the folks who have made today possible. First, GSVlabs for opening their doors to host the event. That's right. Their support staff has been tremendous with their technical expertise as well. In particular, again, Marlon Evans, CEO, who you met this morning for his legwork, Alec Wright, and Megan Jordan, who handled all of our facility needs. Secondly, SAMCEDA, the San Mateo County Economic Development Association, and the spectacular Roseanne Faust. There she is. She's an awesome moderator. You're such a good moderator. You're stuck every year doing that, Roseanne. So just so you know, they were instrumental with a lot of behind-the-scenes support. Our event sponsors, the County of San Mateo and the Redwood City San Mateo County Chamber of Commerce, and Amy Buckmaster, who I see at that back table. Thank you for all that you do. And none of this would be possible without the planning team from the County of San Mateo, Krista Bigu, Michelle Duran, Eric Forgard, and Jod Ridner, Amanda Borson from SAMCEDA, Gary Waddell, and Marco Chavez. You can hold your applause to the end. They understand we're trying to get out of here on time. Gary Waddell and Marco Chavez from the San Mateo County Office of Ed, Cameron Johnson with San Carlos City Council, Adam Rack, president of the San Carlos School Board. Thank you, Adam. Technical help from Bridget Michelson and Rocky Robinson of Peninsula TV. Back there, they do fantastic work. A big thank you to Supervisor Warren Slocum's staff, Carol Marks, Marci Dragan, Maya Perkins, and Irving Torres, and my district office staff, Mario Rendon, Zach Ross, Susan Kennedy, Ben Cohn, Carol Ong, and Virginia Kroger, as well as all of our interns and volunteers back there. Thank you all for being here.